fact matter, except the fact that God has given to you. Anyway, I'll become emotional now, so let's go in this thing. What are some challenges people outside the family rarely see or understand?
Okay. So,
Without taking
we,
names.
I mean, we can talk about this for the whole day, but let me limit my answer because I think one of the biggest challenges is, you know, they don't see how constant it is. It's not momentary, and it is not just about few difficult moments that we have with the kid. It's every single day. So it's a battle that we face every single day, and right from planning something as simple as stepping out to a party or family function, or even say going out for a short drive. On a short drive is more like it needs a lot of preparation, and with a lot of preparation comes a lot of restriction as well, because I can't opt for destinations that everyone in the family opts, and because I have my own reasons to say no. And it sounds selfish, but then I know the consequences of taking him to a place that he may not be okay with. So it's not something that I have open options and I can choose. I have very limited options. So that also applies to how I prefer to take him to a family function, or do I even prefer to take him to a family function, a birthday party, anything. So people don't see the emotional side of it. It's more of the mental load on the parent is too high. Particularly as long as the child is at home, is in our control, nothing seems worrisome. But then when you know that it's time to take them out to a place where they meet, or they'll have to socialize, not even socialize, just look at people outside the family they've been with. The mental load on the parent is really too high. So there's a lot of patience involved that goes unnoticed. And also I see that another thing they don't understand is how isolating it can feel. We could be surrounded by people, but our experience is completely different. So we go to a party, it's the same way we are treated, but the feeling in every parent is completely different. So you don't have to validate that, but at least the least expectation is don't get into that judgmental phase, because the judgment is not just on the child, but it's very blindly on the parent as well. Honestly, that hurts more. And for instance, he has sensory issues, and I really can't take other kids at rest to a party. So it's a very as a parent, even I would love to, but when I know that he's got certain limitations, I really can't force him to do certain things. So the immediate comment the moment I take him to a family function is probably the family lacks dressing etiquettes. Look at the way they've dressed the child. They don't bother to focus on the child's appearance and all of this. So these things honestly hurt us more, because we're already going through a lot by saying yes to being a part of the function, or outside on a short drive. But when people get insensitive, it's hard for us to you know kind of deal with it, and also accept the fact that this is how it's going to be. And I believe that one constant challenge I've been facing is, despite explaining what autism is, people still behave like they don't understand what it is. So which also means to say that they have actually not tried understanding what autism really is. Probably they went ahead with a blind statement that okay, he's got a limitation, that's all it is. So the next time when you look at the child again, so you get back into the same mode of judgment. So that's very challenging for me. And this is something that I wish people understand or refrain themselves from commenting, or
Mm.
you know
Yeah. Don't
even
want to dash. Yeah.
reacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Debbie, I mean, not. We went somewhere, the relatives actually passed some comments such as on her. and she doesn't even bother, right? She, what will a child just think? So it hurts at times, actually, at that point of a time. Sensory issues, you spoke about your kid. How does this show up in your child's daily life? For example, mine is tiptoe walking.
Yeah.
Then certain times, that toe walking would be the major thing. Certain times, maybe earlier it was there that, you know, if we have wet surface, she didn't want to put her leg and all that. What about your kid?
This shows up almost every day, and it also it begins from clothes to food to everything he deals with on daily basis. So I just spoke about his cloth preferences. It has to be really soft and soothing. Anything rough, I think he's almost 7 now, and for the last 7 years, I haven't bought him a single jean or any cloth made of a
Mm,
jean material because he simply can't handle it.
mm,
He would be so irritated that you'll have to get it off, and so the fabric preference is also very important. So I'm very choosy when it comes to buying clothes for him, and this also reminds me of the food. The texture is very important. He can't feed himself that something that's soggy. A curd rice or dip in the sambar is a big no. If it's dry, he wouldn't mind having it by himself. But then, if there is something that has to be dipped in something else or mixed with something else or had, he would simply wait for someone to feed him, or he would even go back to bed hungry. So that's how he is. It's more like, it's not just with his fingers handling the food. It's also about the way his jawline is made, or his jawline is. So the food preference also it's more like he doesn't want to chew it much, and he doesn't want things to be really hard. That's how it was initially, and then slowly he is much better now. But the texture of the food is a big concern on daily basis, and the toy is very
mm,
specific, and I would probably choose something as simple as a bucket of sand or grains or
mm,
something that's granular, because
mm,
that meets his sensory needs. And mostly I don't buy toys for him because I go with something that's already at home. And that's also because he goes around looking for what he likes. And that
mm,
becomes his toy. So when I empty the dal packet into the dabba, he's more like, okay, give it to me, and that's the
mm,
toy for the next 1 week. He
mm,
prefers, meddling with it, so that it's kind of calming for him, and it's also
yeah.
soothing for him.
Mm,
So that's one thing, and of course, there's always an issue when I take him to crowded places, the noise, the
mm,
people around,
mm,
and one big concern is he's too he can't handle spaces that are claustrophobic. At least he needs the space to be well lit, ventilated,
oh yeah.
calm, and also he has to feel safe there. So there comes the challenge. When I take him outside, I can't take him to a washroom,
Mm,
because that's how washrooms are designed here, and
mm,
it's a big concern for me.
mm,
So he would simply deny getting in. So any and at home also, I prefer having a room that's very bright and ventilated, so that he does not feel claustrophobic, and at the same time there's no fear. I can leave him there for 10-15 minutes. Else, this constant monitoring should be there from the parent. He needs me to be beside. He needs me to look at him. He needs me to ensure that he's fine. So this, the feel of insecurity is always there. So these are all the
mm,
sensory issues he deals with, and also, like, the right from the footwear he wears. He can't take anything. It has to again be open as much as possible. He doesn't go with shoes that's closed, and he feels that something is going to trouble his foot already. So it
mm,
has to be open. It has to be a plain simple sandal. It can be anything, but he can't go with shoes much. So
mm,
these are, on daily basis, his sensory issues crop up, and
yeah.
it's a different story every day.
Yeah, true. Yana, you mentioned a lot of point. When my daughter, if she goes to a toilet, if the lights are not on, she would say, switch on the light. So
Yes.
I can relate to a lot of things. And as the time progresses, you understand all of these things.
Yes.
But I can't go and tell every 15 people this is the condition kind of a thing. So to go and all that stuff and that fabric is again a problem. All right.
Yeah.
How now we come to talk about schools. Um, how has your experience been to schools, in schools when it comes to accepting and supporting the uh, ASD kids and all?
It's been quite challenging because I've made a mistake of getting him enrolled in a regular school.
Mm,
And initially, I got him enrolled in a regular school with the hope that being around with the other children might help him pick up
mm,
his vocal skills and also social interaction over time. Because now he's much better in taking a stroll in the mall. But then back then, I wouldn't he wouldn't even step out of the house. So that was a huge concern. And but getting an admission was a nightmare. It wasn't easy at all. The school was hesitant and initially refused admission only because he was nonverbal. And they already had concluded that he wouldn't pick up anything because
mm.
they saw him lack IQ skills, and then they saw he was nonverbal. So there was already a decision made that anyway you give him a seat, he's not going to do anything. So
Yeah.
that was really a challenge for me. And I still, I don't know why did I even bother to get him a seat back then. But something in me kept telling me that put him
Yeah.
with the regular children. And this is also what other people would tell you. They'll be like, let him be with the other children, so they'll eventually become normal and all of that stuff. So as time went on, I realized that um, the acceptance in the regular schools was not genuine. It was more of sympathy. When
Mm.
they see a child amongst 50 kids who are all normal, when they see a child who's nonverbal, who's not able to pick up anything, who's not able to convey anything, I don't see an acceptance there. I see sympathy there. So the support was very minimal. The homework given to him was so damn minimal. So they refused to place him on the same scale as they place the other children. So what happens is, um, uh, realizing the system has already decided the limits without even trying to understand him will put us in a dilemma. And I was in a plight where I didn't know if I'd taken the right decision. I didn't know if I had to move him out of the school, and I didn't have the confidence back then to look for special schools because that was something I never even approached. I never even looked into. So I think the regular schools these days, it's the support is very minimal and the acceptance, I don't know, it could be zero to minimal in my opinion.
Yeah, so it may be a little bit initially like if you're talking about nursery or a playgroup, but
Yeah.
as time goes on, when you go to LKG, UKG, I'm not blaming the school or something like that. I'm just trying to tell that uh, it also depends on the teachers. And I'll give
Mm-hmm.
you an instance of where I went to pick up my daughter one day, and I said, "Where is she?" And this, I said, and I knew that they were going to the park and all that stuff. So I said, "Where is she, Shivangi?" She said, "She's in the class." I said, "With whom?" She said, "With an Aya." I said, "Why she's not in the park?" She didn't know we wouldn't be able to handle this thing. She used to always say that she wanted to go to school. But I started observing when I said, "Do you want to go to school?" She said, "No." They
Yeah.
need a lot of it. They need a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Yes and no are two things which has become very prominent with her. And another thing is that these kids will not lie. They don't fake. So you can be sure about one thing, but I wouldn't say about my daughter this thing. But this day she's becoming a little manipulative, which is that when she's it's feigning, and so I'm not going to eat. Then after a little while she'll say happy this. So her mom said she made you, and she knows whom to make. She knows Papa somehow I will escape. But with a mom, it's
Oh boy.
this thing and all that sort of a thing and all that. The other stuff is also that we have treated both the kids the same in a sense that I don't differentiate her as a as an ADHD on this thing. It is very difficult on you if you are going to do that. It's more work for you. Please understand. I'm just saying no emotion part. I'm just saying it's more work for you. Don't do that. You treat her as if you were treating yourself. You treat her as if you were your own child. You speak to her how you would have spoken to music. Go and do this. If you are saying, oh, she will understand two prompts, she will three prompts. Hi, yes, I agree. Then don't be giving too many instructions. For example, go there, come and collect this, come and collect this. Why didn't you go? Why didn't you do this? Then it becomes too much of her for process. Go and do this. Wait for it. And I tell her mom is why is she waiting? I say, hold on. The brain is processing. It lacks a little bit of this thing is there. Then said,
Yes.
can you please do this? Then that and she will do it because she's probably right now she's concentrating on something else at that time. This kind of a thing. So you sort of like treat her this thing and all that. There was a lot of thing about school and all that stuff since you mentioned about it and all that, accepting and all that stuff. But anyone in your shoes would do the same. They would put it in the regular school also. And this
Yeah.
thing, if you can identify kids like ours in some schools where they're going, it is better for you to actually talk to their parents and see this thing. So right now, when she started going, they have special education, right? And so their kids, they have parents and all that sort of a thing. So I knew that kids are going and all that stuff. They need a lot of attention also, focus and all that. Otherwise, you will come to know from their behavior that they don't want to even go.
Yeah.
So why did it happen suddenly? A kid suddenly who was very happy going there. So this thing. Um, if schools want to be inclusive, what simple changes could make a big difference? Do you think?
Um,
Because every school nowadays saying they're inclusive.
that's only become a topic of discussion, and it's a hot topic these days. But
Yeah.
I don't really see that put into action. So, firstly, I would prefer having a tailor-made curriculum for special children, and that's because common academic expectations they don't suit every child. Because see, again, I'm not even bringing in special kid into picture. I'm talking about the other regular normal children. Learning is not the same for everybody, and with that, for someone where academics or anything else is very challenging, I definitely think the curriculum has to be tailor made. I mean, I'm talking about schools that are regular and trying to be inclusive, because we have special schools that are already focusing on these. But for regular schools, this would be it. And secondly, the most very important thing that I always keep telling the other parents as well is that inclusion must be taught to other children as well.
Mm.
It's not just enough for the parent to know. It's not just enough for the teacher to know, because his his folks, his peers, they should learn. They should learn to be empathetic. They should know what kindness means. They should have an acceptance towards this child, because I remember when I put my son in this regular school. It so happened that I was there to pick him up, and it was completely unplanned. And I noticed that he was being bullied by the other children. So it could be as simple as people mocking or laughing at him, saying he doesn't play, he doesn't talk. The one kid telling the other kid that don't include him. He's not like us. So it
Mm.
could be as simple as this. But then children being so insensitive is something that it surprises me, because maybe kids these days are raised that way. I'm not really sure. I don't want to comment on the parenting, but I feel it is a must for us to teach inclusion to children as well. They need to be told that they're also one amongst us. It's just that you talk, he doesn't talk. You are able to eat, he is not able to eat. It's these minor differences. And it I strongly believe that children should be seated together. Sometimes I've seen my son being very much like Shivangi being left alone in the class. I once noticed that in a class of 50, he's right at the end of the classroom, sitting in the last row. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what the teachers were expecting him to do. He was just there,
Podcaster Korea.
made to sit isolated. So that shattered me, that broke me, and I truly believe inclusion matters in every aspect, not just in terms of debate or taking this as a topic and convincing parents to take an admission in their school. It's also about bringing in these minor changes. And what I mean to say is the uh, uh, the foremost thing is the assessment or the qualifying criteria should be tailor-made. And with that, awareness on the sensitivity or to handle the child is equally important, because we never know when the child would have a meltdown, would have an outburst, and how are the teachers trained to handle that. If they are not special educators, it's not easy for them to handle such a child. They would simply throw the child out and then call the parent for further discussion. So an open communication with the parent is also equally important, because maybe the child spends around one fourth or one half of the day, depending on the school. But as parents, we know much more. We know the kid really well. So we know what
Yeah.
he's capable of, what he is willing to do, what he's not willing to do. So I think the transparency with the parent on what is happening with the child at the school would benefit. So these are all things that I really believe is a part of the topic called inclusion, and of course focusing on the regular schools.
Yeah. So it will take a lot of time, what you were telling me right now. But the most
Yes.
important point, I mean, everything that you mentioned are important. But one of the things that I think not in the school, in the society, because I remember when she was just 2 years back, couple of girls were playing, doing merry-go-round. And these are girls in a sense that they should be like 14, 15-year-old. She wanted to go and play. She just did like this with her. And I was just observing her parents. She just did said, go away, go away. This thing. I don't want to say this, but you know, raising the kids is also very important. How do you do that? Do it nicely. Do it in a society kind of a thing for that. And what you sow is what you reap. And I don't want to get in, but tomorrow it might be something that you face. And when you face that in real life, then you come to know how your kid was raised. This all starts from small, small things, right? At that point of a time. My wife was telling me yesterday a very important point. She told me that, when she was in nursery, she made two friends, one guy, and she used to talk about him or in this thing. So she said, she made friends, right? I said, yeah, she was talking about this guy because of the fact that that kid was also taking initiative to talk to her or something like that. That's a very important point. You getting my point, what I'm trying to say? So here, the important thing is, as you say, and this is something that I probably would um, talk to my kid's specialty when I talk to her this thing, because she's a special teacher, educator for that matter. I would probably talk, but I remember talking to the center head, the principal, the other day, and I said, "Do the other kids know about how illiterate this?" She said that they're all kids right now. They wouldn't probably. So I left it over there at that time. But when you said this, I think I probably have the special educator at that time and probably have a word with her and say that, this is also very important, which happens in a lot of schools in Japan for that matter. Why Japan ranks this thing, how they taught the kids right from this thing. So we will build on AI and ML, all these things, but probably we can just concentrate on this parts also. They're very, very important.
Yes.
Well, Abhirami, I think we can go on, but I think all right. So I'll just quickly, because parenting a neurodivergent child can be simply exhausting at times. How do you take care of? I mean, how do you take care of yourself as a parent?
That's an interesting question because many people wonder where I draw the energy from, and I would take it back to years ago. One of my mentors told me something really powerful. They said, fill your cup first. So that simply meant that unless I take care of myself, I will not be able to take care of my family. And this applies not just to any special parent, but to any woman taking care of a family. So there, in specific cases like ours, I think the role of a supportive spouse is equally important. There are times when I've been low, and he's been there to give me that morale booster, saying it's all right, things will get better, and vice versa. There are days when he's been like that, and I've been in a position to comfort him. So that's one important thing. And for any emotional or mental support, I look forward to him. I look forward to his words, his way of comforting, and the same. So the support from the spouse is a very basic thing. And the second is, I lowered expectations from myself. I used to be a perfectionist, trying to achieve everything possible. If so and so is on my bucket list for today, ensure it is done, otherwise don't sleep. So these were things, this is how I was. But then it's been like in the recent years, I've lowered all these expectations, and I asked for help. So I prioritize my work, and I divide my responsibilities, and wherever possible, if there's something that someone else can do on my behalf, I'll let it go. Even if it's not perfect, I'm still okay. I just need the task to be done, and I asked for help. And most importantly, I believe that everybody has got some or the other way to relax. It could be music, it could be art, it could be painting, anything. And for working people especially, it just can't be meetings and deliveries, and then switch back to ensure everything at home is done. It just can't be that. You need to figure out something that will refresh you, relax you, because we're also humans. We need that space, and we can't keep toiling the whole day physically and mentally. So I chose art and craft, and then that's something I've been doing for a lot of time. And then it simply helps me breathe. So a refresher, and not being too harsh with myself with what can be done on a daily basis, or even for a monthly target. I don't really pressure myself too much. And the most important thing is talk to people who can really be of any value, who can give you valuable inputs. You can, being a special parent, you can keep cribbing about it, you can keep ranting about it day in, day out to people. But then it also matters on who can actually give you something really valuable. It need not be a very, medically sound advice, or it need not be something really complicated. It could be as simple as hearing us out. So pick your people, and then talk to them, ask for help, or even just ask them to sit and listen to you. That itself is calming. So I think a lot of things put together is where I pull this energy from.
Great. I guess more or less, for example, I try to actually say that there were a lot of interests, a lot of hobbies in my life. I, when I look back and all that stuff for that matter. But anyways, now Shivangi loves playing with water, beaches, and all that stuff. So once in a year, at least one vacation I can probably make. Can I take a trip to her to? It's always been beaches. It's always been water. Or, for example, what would that be actually? Or if I go to, let's say I go to a Pondicherry and I take a resort near sea-facing resort. So the beach, then you are in the pool, you eat food and all that. I don't do activities like entire trip, and then those days I don't do it. And
Alone.
so it has to be relaxation kind of a thing for that matter. So we take trips like that. Anything concerning with them, I do that wherever possible for that matter. Which so traveling is one that I probably do. a lot whenever I can possibly and all that stuff. Because that's the basic thing that I can do right now. Because um, it also everything that we have to look right. We have to see the time, schedule the kid, everything at that point of a time. So that's there. All right. What progress or milestone have meant the most of you in Athirban so far?
Um, I think we don't really set aside highlights on his progress or milestones because we celebrate
Everything.
every little and because there's a lot of effort that has gone behind it, and for others it could seem like really something that's very lame, but as parents we know how much of effort has gone, and it could be as simple as opening a tap and he himself washing hands, or just turning the light on. It could be as simple as that, but the effort that has gone into training to do that is tremendous. So and I would say he's also able to pick up complicated things like boarding the escalator by himself. So that needs a lot of hand, eye and foot coordination. So if he's able to do that, I would consider that to be the biggest milestone, and I noticed him doing that. So a lot of things like this. The last annual sports day, he brought home a medal, and he got a trophy home. So these things, it starts from very minute things, but then the celebrations do not end. We don't mind celebrating them with sweets, hugs, joy, joyful
Yeah.
family gatherings and so on. But we don't limit the progress or milestones, Rajiv. That's very honestly, we don't do that. We don't want to do that because what seems like a progress to others might actually maybe a very big thing for me, and what does not seem to be a progress to others might also still look like a big deal for me. So we celebrate everything he does.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, two last questions before we go. Um, this one is a bit thing, and I think as a parent, I have also thought about it. And the biggest insecurity a parent has is leaving their child alone in this world. There will be a time that we won't be there. So, do you think about it?
Um, I don't deny. I mean, I've thought about it, say every single day, and it scares me deeply. It scares me very badly. Um, so I mean, what helps here is I'd like to mention a school here. He goes to a special school called Amara Soundarya Foundation, and they consistently train us to dominate the field and look at the future. So something that we are repeatedly told is, train him to be independent. Once you're gone, that's the only thing he'll have. And the financial backup, the people you think will back him up, everything may or may not be there. But then the parent raising him to be an independent child is the only asset that anybody can give him, and that's what the school repeatedly tells us. So there are many nights I've not slept, and as he grows, the fear grows within. So that's also because we are aging, and we don't know what awaits us. So there's this constant fear that's bothering me day in day out. I'm like, who's going to take care of him? And when you know that it's only you who know your child really well, as a be it the father or the mother. When you know that the others may not understand him fully as much as you do, then the fear is it's multifold. You know that whoever it is, be it my own mom and dad, I know that for sure he won't be that safe and secure as he is with the parent. So that's always been bothering me. But what I've been training myself to believe is beyond anything, it's the independence I give him with his life or with his daily chores. I mean, I bring it down to his daily chores, in fact, because him taking care of himself, right from using the washroom to being able to buy what he likes, is the most challenging thing here. And once you're able to train your child to do that, I think you're already halfway through it. Of course, this the value and the security I give him, and also the financial backup that I keep thinking of. There's always this question of, why do you work when you have a special child at home? And is it because you're not satisfied with your earnings? It's not like that. As parents, we always want the child to be financially backed up, because we don't know how his career is going to look like. And if he's able to pick up any skill that's going to help him earn, well and good. But he's not able to do that, as parent, it's a constant urge in me to ensure that there's something backing him up, and there's something that's holding on people to ensure that he's fine. So that financial stability is something that I've always been focusing on, and I believe that's the safety net that's going to help him moving ahead, in the future. So independence, the financial security from the parent, and also the values I imbibe, because that's also equally important. And I must say that children, like children, they are by nature, they are very kind. They know how to behave with other children. It's
Mm,
just that
mm.
their emotional regulation is slightly different. But otherwise, these kids are generally, they are very kind and
Easy.
calm, and they
Yeah.
know. They know how to behave.
Yeah.
So with that, I think we need to just build on those values, and I think to an extent help him. I don't know. I really can't predict the future, but whatever is in my control is what I would like to ensure before I'm
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're doing a good job, Abhinami. I'm sure your kid will grow up to be a very, I mean, he's already, as you say, this thing. And I just pray that both of us are, our kids are independent, they are very nice kids and all that stuff. Finally, Abhinami, we come to the last question. I took a lot of your time, but um, if someday your kid watches this podcast, what is one thing that you would want Athirvan to know?
Um, that's a very, very emotional question, because I said a yes to this podcast, also considering the fact that I need to leave some kind of trace. At what all happened when he didn't realize, because kids these days, you ask them anything, they can even answer to the rocket science level. But kids like Atira, I don't know to what extent they would even know what was happening around them until a certain age. So I think this is one of the greatest opportunities, because I don't know if at all I can have any public conversation like him that he can refer to sometime later, because these are all offline and personal conversations. So I want him to know that his parents stood by him when he needed them the most, and that he is a blessing, because with a lot of he's the first grandchild, he's the first son. There's a lot that people would comment about, the luck he brings, the fortune he brings, but except for me or my husband, nobody can validate how fortunate he is. And I want him to know that he has always been a blessing, and he will remain. If at all I wish to have another child, he is who he is, and he's always been a blessing to us. And I want him to know that you know consistently we've been looking at ways to make the world a better place for him. And whatever possible, from my end or from my husband's end, we've been putting this effort to ensure that it's not just him, it's also the world around him that takes care of him when he's grown up. So whatever would benefit his future, we've been putting our efforts to make it better. And I only wish to tell him that someday he breaks all barriers, and he's there thriving to be an individual, independent, and ensuring his life is taken care by himself, and he's not a dependent child. That's something that I've always been wanting to tell him, and I would want that to be recorded on this podcast as well. So
Shelby, Abhinami, that's so sweet of you, and that's so he'll be so proud to hear that your mom, his mom, has so spoken such so special been to him. Yeah, as a I want Shivangi to know that one day, when she watches this podcast, I want Shivangi to know that both the parents, mom and dad, but especially she's always going to be, uh, she is and she will always be my first child, and she's always going to be special to me. I love her a lot. I'm blessed that I had a child, or I'm blessed that my first child was a girl child, Shivangi. And a lot of people say that if you had a boy and all that stuff for that matter, but we're very fortunate enough to have two girl childs. And I know when I say people would say, oh, no, 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 it is a fortunate. You won't understand the kind of love and compassion. I am the youngest um, child of my family, and we were all three sons. So my mom had only three brothers, and I got a lot of care and pampered from my mom. So, and then I got the same thing from my kids. I get this thing. So Shivangi's this, you are very special, and there is nothing wrong with you. First of all, you are absolutely perfect in whatever you had. You are good in a particular thing, and you have been such a, you know, fantastic kid to grow up with. And um, the parents are extremely proud of you. And if you are listening or if you are watching this podcast, I'm sure you would have been now uh, an independent woman who's excelling in whatever you are going and doing in your career, and wherever your papa and mama is there, we are all proud of you. And don't worry about anything in life. There will be good people, there will be bad people. I'm sure you know how to manage them. You are very straightforward, and just be what you are. You don't have to change the world or anything like that. But we are extremely proud of you. So that's all I have to say about her. And she should always know that she is very, very special to her mom and dad. And that's it, will always be like that. Um, so that's it, Davirami. Any last pointers you want to say before we finish it off?
Thank you, Rasif. After a long time, I've had a very hearty conversation, and it rekindled a lot of things that I've kind of shut off for quite a lot of time. But I think it's important to talk about it, because the more you talk, there are many people who don't even talk about it, and I really feel bad for them. So talk about it, and only then you will receive whatever help in whatever way possible.
Yeah,
So thanks
absolutely.
for this podcast.
Thank you, Abhirami. And to all the kids, to all the parents out there who's watching our podcast, if especially parents with their kids with ASD, ADHD, please reach out to us. And I'll also like to have more sessions in the future, meet a lot of other people from, and we want to talk about health, we want to talk about hygiene, we want to talk about a lot of things. Let's see if we can, do all of these things. Um, but I hope this podcast would be useful to a lot of you. I really enjoyed. There was a lot of things that I also could express, and it's better you let it out. Sometimes, if you don't let it out, don't keep it within yourself. It's better, and don't be shy enough. Don't be in a denial. Don't say that what will people think about it. Look, people are not going to come, and then you are on your own actually. So do this for your kid, do this for your client. They're all fine. We just have a condition. You have to just take care of the condition. So do as much as possible you do. Leave the rest to the God. I mean, they brought them into this world, so they will manage it and all that stuff. But thank you
Very
so much,
true.
Abhirami, once again. It's been a
Thank
fantastic
you.
to have you on the podcast. And to all of you who watch this podcast and would like to talk to me, you know where to reach out. And thank you, everyone, and have a great day, Abhirami. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Rasif. Take care.